Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. At the hospital, chaos reigns as doctors and nurses scramble to save Noah's life. The room hums with the sound of machines and whispered urgency, but all eyes turn when Mitch Hastings storms in, his face a mixture of desperation, guilt, and determination. For weeks, Mitch has been silently wrestling with a truth so explosive it could shatter multiple families across Genoa City. And now, as Noah Newman lies motionless, pale and unresponsive, on the hospital bed after a near-fatal collapse, Mitch realizes that this is the moment he can no longer hide what he knows. The monitors beep erratically, the blood pressure dropping too fast for comfort, and the attending physician shouts that Noah's type-specific blood isn't available in the hospital's supply. He needs a transfusion right now, the doctor says, urgency thick in his voice. We can't wait for the next shipment. It's then that Mitch steps forward and says the words that change everything, I'm his match. For a moment, silence cuts through the chaos like a blade. Nick and Sharon freeze in disbelief, eyes wide as they process what Mitch just confessed. That's not possible, Nick blurts out, his voice sharp with both shock and suspicion. You can't be a match. Noah's blood type is AB negative. That's rare, nearly impossible unless, he stops himself before finishing the thought, his eyes narrowing as they dart between Mitch and the unconscious form of his son. Sharon's hand trembles against her chest, tears threatening to spill. Mitch, what are you saying? She whispers, her voice breaking under the weight of dread. Mitch looks down, his guilt finally surfacing. He's kept the truth buried for far too long, and now Noah's life hangs in the balance. I'm saying, Mitch mutters, his voice thick with emotion, that I'm not just his match. I'm his father. Sharon staggers back, her hand flying to her mouth as the revelation slams into her like a physical blow. Nick's jaw tightens, fury and disbelief twisting across his face. You're lying, Nick spits, though his voice trembles with uncertainty. You're just trying to insert yourself into this family again. But Mitch shakes his head slowly, eyes glistening with tears he can't hold back anymore. I wish I were lying, he admits softly. But the truth is, I was with Sharon, just once, years ago, before she got back together with you. We both agreed it was a mistake, something we'd never speak of again. When she found out she was pregnant, you were there, Nick. You wanted to be the father. I let you. I told myself it didn't matter who Noah's biological father was as long as he was loved. His voice cracks. But it matters now. Because my blood is the only thing that can save his life. As the gravity of his words sinks in, the room becomes thick with stunned silence. Sharon feels her knees weaken, her heart pounding with guilt and sorrow. Fragments of memories flood her mind, nights of confusion, old regrets she buried deep within herself, and that one night with Mitch that she told herself to forget forever. She can hardly breathe as the past collides violently with the present. Mitch, please, she whispers, trembling. Don't do this here. Don't, but before she can finish, the doctor interrupts. We don't have time for this, he says sharply. If Mr. Hastings is a match, we'll run the cross-match immediately. Either he donates now, or Noah doesn't make it through the next hour. Sharon closes her eyes, torn between devastation and gratitude. She nods wordlessly, her tears falling freely as she gives the doctor permission to proceed. In the sterile hospital lab, Mitch sits under bright lights, the needle sliding into his arm as his blood flows into the tubing that will soon save the young man's life. The nurse tells him to relax, but there's no peace in his mind. He watches the red stream fill the bag, a symbol of connection he'd never imagined would mean so much. His thoughts drift to Noah, his son, his blood, and the years he lost. Every birthday, every family holiday, every milestone he missed because of one secret he thought he'd buried forever. I should have told him, he murmurs to himself, guilt gnawing at his chest. I should have been there. Meanwhile, Nick paces outside the operating room, his emotions in turmoil. He's torn between anger and heartbreak, disbelief and sorrow. The idea that Noah might not be his biological son tears at his soul. Everything he's ever believed about his family, his fatherhood, his love for Sharon, all of it now feels uncertain. Sharon sits in the waiting area, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She tries to speak, but her voice barely comes out. "Nick, I never meant for you to find out like this. I thought," she breaks off, sobbing quietly. "I thought it was over. It was one night. I thought Noah was yours. The doctors said it lined up, and I wanted it to be you." Nick doesn't answer right away. He stares blankly at the wall, the weight of betrayal crushing him. "You wanted it to be me?" he repeats, his voice hollow. "But you knew there was a chance he wasn't." Sharon nods weakly. "Yes," she admits. "And I hate myself for it every day." Inside the ICU, Noah's condition stabilizes as the transfusion continues. His pale color begins to return, his heartbeat steadies, and the beeping of the monitors becomes rhythmic again, a sound of hope after hours of dread. Mitch stands beside him, watching the boy he secretly fathered fight his way back to life. He gently places a trembling hand on Noah's arm and whispers, "Hang in there, son. You've got my strength now. You've always had it, even if you didn't know." It's a bittersweet moment, one filled with love, regret, and the haunting knowledge that once Noah wakes up, nothing will ever be the same again. Hours later, the doctors emerge with cautious smiles. "He's stable," one of them says. "He's going to make it." Sharon bursts into tears of relief, hugging Nick despite the emotional wall that's risen between them. Nick holds her for a moment, but the embrace feels different now, colder, distant, haunted by the truth that's been revealed. Mitch steps out from behind the doctor, pale but steady, a bandage on his arm. His eyes meet Sharon's, and an unspoken storm passes between them. Gratitude, sorrow, guilt, it's all there. "You saved him," Sharon whispers, her voice trembling. "You saved our boy." Mitch nods, his eyes misty. "He's not just yours, Sharon," he says quietly. "He's mine too." Later, as the sun rises over the horizon, Noah opens his eyes slowly, confusion clouding his expression. Sharon rushes to his side, gently brushing his hair from his forehead. "You're okay," she murmurs softly. "You scared us half to death." Noah tries to speak, his voice weak. What happened?" Sharon glances toward the window, where Mitch stands just outside the room, watching through the glass. For a long moment, she can't find the words. Finally, she says, "You had a reaction. You lost a lot of blood. But you're going to be fine now. Someone special made sure of that." Noah frowns faintly. "Who?" he asks. Sharon hesitates, her throat tightening. "Mitch," she says at last. "He was the donor." Confusion flickers in Noah's tired eyes. "Mitch?" he repeats. "But why would he?" His voice trails off as he studies his mother's face. The look in her eyes tells him that there's more to the story. "Mom," he says slowly, his tone growing sharper. "What aren't you telling me?" Sharon bites her lip, tears threatening again. "Noah," she begins gently, "I need you to listen before you react. Mitch, he's your biological father." The words hang in the air like thunder, and Noah's entire body stiffens. "No," he says firmly, shaking his head. "No, that's not true. Dad, Nick, he's my father." Sharon reaches for his hand, but he pulls away, disbelief and anger blazing in his eyes. "I don't care what some blood test says," Noah snaps. "He's my dad. Mitch is nothing to me." Sharon breaks down, sobbing quietly, while Mitch enters the room slowly, his heart breaking at the sight. "You don't have to call me anything," Mitch says softly. "I just wanted you to live. That's all that matters to me." But the emotional storm only grows. Nick, standing in the doorway, clenches his fists as he listens to the exchange. The pain of betrayal cuts deep, his love for Sharon and Noah colliding with the ugly truth that he's not Noah's father by blood. "You should have told me years ago," Nick says coldly, his voice trembling with restrained fury. "You let me raise him, love him, protect him, all while keeping this secret? Sharon turns toward him, devastated. I thought I was protecting you, she pleads. I thought I was protecting our family. Nick laughs bitterly. You destroyed it instead. Mitch, feeling the tension rise, steps forward. Nick, don't blame her, he says quietly. Blame me. I should have come clean. I thought staying silent was the right thing, but I was wrong. I let fear decide everything. Nick glares at him, his voice shaking. You think saying that makes it better? You think you can just show up now and play hero because your blood saved him? Mitch lowers his eyes. No, he admits. I'm not a hero. I'm a coward who's trying to make things right before it's too late. As Noah listens, his anger softens into confusion. The man he's called Uncle Mitch all these years, the family friend, the mentor who taught him about business and loyalty, now claims to be his father. It's too much to process. I just need some time, Noah whispers. I can't deal with this right now. Sharon nods, her heart shattering as she watches her son turn away, tears slipping down his cheeks. Take all the time you need, Mitch says gently. I'll be here, no matter what you decide. By nightfall, the hospital quiets down. Noah stares out the window from his bed, lost in thought. The world he knew just 24 hours ago has completely changed. Behind him, Sharon and Nick stand in silence, two parents bound by love, yet broken by truth. Mitch stands in the hallway, watching them from afar, knowing he's opened a wound that may never fully heal. But for the first time in years, he's done the right thing. His blood saved his son's life. His truth, though painful, set them all free. And as Noah finally whispers, Dad, thank you, through the glass, Mitch's tears fall, not from regret this time, but from redemption. Because sometimes, it takes a transfusion not just of blood, but of truth, to give life a second chance. In the quiet aftermath of the shocking revelation, Genoa City feels heavier than ever. Every whisper that echoes through Memorial Hospital's sterile hallways seems to carry the weight of betrayal, heartbreak, and unanswered questions. Mitch Hastings sits alone in the dimly lit waiting room, staring blankly at his hands that only hours ago saved his son's life. But that same act of salvation has unleashed a storm that may destroy everything he holds dear. Across the corridor, Nick Newman stands in silence, his arms crossed tightly over his chest, staring through the glass that separates him from the son he's raised since birth. Noah lies in that hospital bed because of Mitch's blood, but to Nick, that fact only deepens the pain. He feels stripped of something sacred, his identity as Noah's father, and he doesn't know who he is anymore. Meanwhile, Sharon sits in Noah's room, her fingers trembling as she adjusts his blanket. The rhythmic beep of the heart monitor soothes her, yet every beat reminds her of the secret she buried decades ago. She can still hear the echo of Mitch's words, I'm his father, haunting her like a cruel refrain. For years, she believed that secret was buried deep enough to never resurface. She convinced herself that love and loyalty could override biology, that the family she built with Nick would remain intact forever. But fate has a cruel way of unearthing the past when it's least convenient. As the morning sun filters weakly through the blinds, Sharon reaches for Noah's hand. You're strong, she whispers. You've always been strong, just like your father. But even as she says it, the word father tastes bitter on her tongue, because she doesn't know which man deserves that title anymore. Mitch's blood may run through Noah's veins, but it was Nick who stayed through every fever, every heartbreak, every triumph. It was Nick who taught Noah how to ride a bike, how to stand up for what's right, how to be a man. Yet, biology has a way of rewriting everything, and Sharon knows that Noah will soon have to face the hardest truth of his life. Later that day, Nick finally walks into the room. His eyes are bloodshot from a sleepless night, and his expression is unreadable. Sharon looks up from the chair beside Noah's bed, her face pale and weary. Nick, she says softly, almost afraid of the sound of his name. He nods stiffly. How's he doing? Stable, Sharon replies. He's been resting. The doctor said he'll need a few more transfusions to stabilize his blood count completely. Nick nods again, his gaze fixed on Noah. For a moment, there's silence, only the steady beeping of the monitor fills the air. Then, finally, he asks, does he know everything? Sharon hesitates. He knows enough, she says quietly. I told him Mitch is his biological father. I didn't tell him everything about how it happened. I didn't think he could handle it yet. Nick's jaw tightens. You mean you didn't tell him you lied to me for over 20 years, he says bitterly. Sharon flinches, her eyes welling with tears. I didn't lie to hurt you, she says, her voice shaking. I truly believed he was yours, Nick. The timing, everything, it pointed to you. But you knew there was a chance, Nick cuts in, his tone cold. You knew and you kept it from me anyway. You let me believe I had a son I'd die for, while you carried that secret in your heart. Sharon's voice breaks. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to destroy what we had. Nick turns away, running a hand through his hair. Well, congratulations, he says harshly. You managed to do both. Outside the door, Mitch stands frozen, hearing every word. His heart clenches as guilt floods through him. He never meant to break apart their family, but his silence played as much a role as Sharon's lies. For years, he justified it by telling himself it was for the best. But now, as he listens to Nick's pain, he realizes that by staying silent, he robbed them all of the truth they deserved. When Noah finally wakes again, the room feels different. He sees the tension in his parents' faces, the exhaustion etched deep in their eyes. You both look like you've been through a war, he mutters weakly. Nick forces a faint smile. Feels like it, he admits. How are you feeling? Noah shrugs. Like I got hit by a train. But I guess that's better than not feeling anything. He glances around. Where's Mitch? Sharon hesitates before answering. He's outside. He's been here the whole time. Noah nods slowly, the reality of everything he's learned pressing heavily on him. You know, he says quietly, when you told me, I didn't believe you. I didn't want to. But I had this dream last night, he pauses, his eyes growing distant. I saw a little boy walking down a dark road. He was lost, crying. And then two men appeared, one reached out his hand, but the boy didn't know which one to take. I think, that was me. Sharon feels her chest tighten as she listens to her son's words. Nick, too, looks away, hiding the pain in his eyes. Noah, Nick says finally, his voice thick, you don't need to choose. I raised you because I love you. That hasn't changed, and it never will. Noah looks at him for a long moment before whispering, you'll always be my dad. Nothing can change that. Nick nods, but the tremor in his voice betrays the pain he's feeling. Just then, the door opens and Mitch steps in. The sight of him makes Noah's expression harden. The older man looks uncertain, almost afraid. Hey, Mitch says softly. I just wanted to see how you were holding up. Noah stares at him for a moment before replying coldly, I'm alive, thanks to your blood, apparently. Mitch winces but nods. Yeah. I'm glad I could help. He hesitates, then steps closer. Look, Noah, I don't expect you to understand or forgive me. What Sharon and I did, what we kept from you, it wasn't right. But I need you to know one thing, I've always cared about you. From the moment I saw you as a baby, I felt something, a connection. I didn't know why, but I guess now I do. Noah's voice sharpens. So what? You're saying you wanted to tell me all this time? That you just couldn't find the right moment? Mitch sighs. It's not that simple. It never is, Noah snaps. You think dropping this bomb makes anything better? You saved my life, Mitch, but you also blew it up at the same time. The words sting, but Mitch doesn't fight back. Instead, he nods slowly. You're right, he says quietly. I can't fix what I've done. But I can try to be here now, if you'll let me. Noah looks away, torn between gratitude and resentment. He doesn't know how to feel, his world has been rewritten overnight. After Mitch leaves, Sharon sits beside Noah again. I know you're angry, she says softly. You have every right to be. But please remember, none of this changes how much you're loved. Noah lets out a bitter laugh. Love? You call this love? You and Mitch lied to me for my entire life. You let Dad, Nick, believe something that wasn't true. You let me believe it. What kind of love is that? Sharon's tears spill freely now. The kind that's afraid, she whispers. The kind that makes terrible choices because it doesn't want to lose what it has. Noah turns his face away, unable to look at her. Maybe fear isn't love at all, he mutters. As the days pass, the hospital stay turns into a crucible for everyone involved. Nick avoids Sharon as much as possible, burying himself in work and spending long hours on the phone. Sharon, desperate to hold her family together, finds herself breaking down in the quiet corners of the hospital, whispering prayers that feel hollow. Mitch continues to check in on Noah, but each visit feels like walking through a minefield. Sometimes Noah refuses to speak to him at all. Other times, he listens but says nothing, his eyes distant and full of conflict. One evening, Mitch finds Nick outside on the hospital balcony, staring out at the city lights. You shouldn't be here, Nick says flatly. Mitch steps closer anyway. I'm not here to fight, he says. I just wanted to say, thank you. For raising him. Nick turns sharply. Don't thank me, he says coldly. I didn't do it for you. I did it because he's my son. Blood doesn't define that. Mitch nods. You're right, he admits. But blood has a way of complicating things, doesn't it? Nick glares at him. You think this is complicated?